We are joined on Issues and Interviews on the Hudson Power Broker channel by the original Trump supporter, Rocco Limitone. Good afternoon, Rocco. How are you?
Good afternoon, Kieran. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. We're going to talk a little bit about the current events as it relates to our 45th president. But first, let me explain why I call you the original Trump supporter. I remember back in 2015, very early on in the first weeks of the Trump campaign for the presidency, you, Rocco Limitone, were on the Trump train, one of the early members of the Trump train. And I even remember that summer, August 2015, they held the first presidential debate. There were like 16 candidates, including Trump, Ron Paul, Rubio, Jeb Bush, all these big shots. And Trump was the star of the show. He had the little fight or big fight with Megyn Kelly. And then you and I, the very next day after that first 2015 debate, were on the Megyn Kelly show as part of a big panel talking about it. And you were all for Trump way back then. So you're the original. I was much later to the train because I was hung up on the fact that I had been a Democrat here in New York for all these years and given to all these crazy liberals. But I guess that was just a business transaction to him to be able to do business in New York. But I can tell by your hat and your sweatshirt, you're still on the Trump train. Is that right, Rocco?
I am driving the Trump train.
You are? Okay.
I am on it. We're going to win again this year. We're going to get 4 more years.
So President Trump is obviously the commander-in-chief. We have this unprecedented coronavirus challenge in front of us. He's getting a lot of criticism for his handling of the coronavirus. Your thoughts on the handling by the White House, President Trump and his team?
Well, if you look at the facts and the timeline, the handling has been phenomenal. I mean, especially compared to other pandemics that's happened, even though this one has a higher death rate. But when Trump initially back in January blocked flights from China, if you remember, everyone called him a racist, xenophobic, and every other name they could think of under the sun. And then what happened after that? Nancy Pelosi went through Chinatown with a bunch of Chinese businessmen. Said, come down here, it's safe. Come shop. Dr. Fauci said, you don't need to wear a mask. It's safe. Don't worry about it. This is not going to be very big. This is going to be small. Cuomo, same thing. De Blasio told everyone in March to go to Broadway, see a play, go out to dinner. Now think about it. If Trump did not block that flight from China, how much more negativity would he be getting from the press? Because right now they're saying, oh, it's no big deal. But if he didn't block it, they would be all over him saying you didn't block the flights from China. So Trump was ahead of the curve. Now listen, in a situation like this, no one can predict what is going to happen. This has been moving every hour, every minute, just like the pause in New York. At one point, it was 25% of your workforce was allowed in. Within 20 minutes, he initiated the pause in New York back in March 20th. Right. That's how quick this is changing. So how could you criticize someone when this is moving so quick? We really are not sure exactly what was going to happen, and we really weren't sure what to do. But he has been handling this excellently.
No, they don't have the 2-hour press conferences every day as they used to, and they're not as long. But did you think that was helpful for the month that those were going on? Was that helpful to the country and to the president's cause?
I think it was helpful in the terms that the president was out there. He showed everyone he was in charge. He was on top of it. He put together an unbelievable committee, the coronavirus committee with Vice President Pence. He put Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci. I mean, he put everything together. So I think it was helpful. What wasn't helpful was the press, rather than asking important questions, they were just trying to throw zingers and gotchas. That's all they were doing. Every question was a gotcha, and then it was a follow-up with a gotcha. Just like what happened recently with the Asian reporter, Wang. I'm not sure exactly what her name was. But everything is trying to be a gotcha moment to the president. And, you know, the president got to the point, why am I doing this? Why am I out here every day taking this shellacking? I mean, think about it. Almost 4 years now. It has been non-stop negativity against President Trump. Non-stop. What have they done? They've impeached him. Now we find out, which we knew, Russia was a hoax. Michael Flynn It was, I wouldn't call it a hoax. I would call it I'm not even sure what to call it. It was a catastrophe, what they did to the general, a patriot, an American general. So I think most people at this point in time, after almost 4 years, would have said, you know what, take your presidency and see where you got to go, because I'm done. This man has endured it. Gets up at like 5 a.m. I get tweets from him, and I'm sure you do too, at 1 a.m. The guy doesn't sleep. He's taking care of our country. So I like the fact that he stopped doing the conferences, the press meetings, and that he put the press secretary back out there. I like that because they were just torturing the guy, and it made no sense. Not one reporter, not one said, Mr. President, how are you doing? How is your family doing? How are you feeling? How are you surviving through this? But they ex-Biden that.
Good point. Good point. Totally different view on how Republicans are treated and how Trump is treated versus Democrats. Rock, if you've seen the movie Bombshell, which is a movie that's critical of Fox News and Roger Ailes for sexually harassing the females there, unclear what really happened. It is a movie, but the movie actually starts with that debate that we talked about earlier in this interview, and that Megyn Kelly show that you and I were on. We didn't make it into the movie. I guess they didn't have actors good enough to play us. But when the Megyn Kelly producers called me, they said, hey, do you know anybody who would want to be on? And I said, well, I want to be on. Put me on. And they're like, okay, we'll take you. Do you know anybody else who would be good? And I said, yeah, I have a guy who would be good. Perfect guy. He sells trucks for a living, sells Ford trucks for a living. Very politically astute guy, man on the street. And even when I told some people today that I was going to interview you, they're like, why are you interviewing Rocco? He's not in office. He's not he's a regular guy. He's a man of the people. I said, that's exactly why I'm interviewing him. I want to get the real Trump supporter, not the paid Trump supporter, not the paid guy who's on TV talking about politics, not the elected official who's, wants to help Trump, but is also worried about his or her own election. I want the real regular Trump supporter, because I think you represent the millions of people around the country who support Trump and have supported Trump for 5 long years now.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate what you said. And there are a lot of them. If you listen to the press, Trump is the most hated man in the world, the most hated man in America, and he has no supporters. That's if you listen to the press. But you go out there and knock on doors like I have. You go out there on the street and talk to people. You talk to people during general business, and you'll find he has a lot of supporters. You bring up the fact that I sell trucks to the construction industry. And I've had so many conversations with contractors, electricians, plumbers, masons, landscapers, and many of them have
real Americans,
real guys out there in the field. And, it's funny, the ones that haven't voted for Trump, they said to me, I didn't vote for the man, but I'll be damned. I'm going to vote for him this time because I have never been so busy. I can't even find guys to work. And when I find someone to work, they want top dollar because they can get a job anywhere. Now, of course, this is post-Chinese COVID-19, but
pre-COVID-19.
I apologize. Pre-Chinese COVID-19.
See, that's why I'm a professional and you're a man on the street.
Exactly. But these are the things that I'm hearing from people that didn't even vote for him. And I've heard people say, I don't really like the guy, but man, my business is booming. I'm doing fantastic. My job is doing well. And even now, during this COVID-19 activity, I've spoken to landscapers who said, I don't know where people are getting money from, but I am so busy. So there is a lot going on in this world that the press does not put out there. And it's up to guys like you, and you're doing it, to get the word out there, to get the other side out there and let people know, hey, don't believe this because a lot of it is nonsense. There's a lot more going on than what you see. And that's why I think Trump is going to blow it away in this election. He's going to win by a landslide.
You think Trump's going to win by a landslide? Because most of the polls, there's even polls of Pennsylvania and other swing states that have Biden ahead, or they have it neck and neck. And the national polls, it's a big gap between Biden and Trump with Biden on top. But you don't think that's going to happen? Why?
Well, according to the polls, Hillary Clinton is now our president, right? So I wouldn't put much faith into the polls. And if you look at it, the Trump supporters have kind of been called a silent majority. When they're asked questions, a lot of them, because of the discrimination that we get, they think about it. See this hat here? You can't wear this hat in New York City. Someone's going to knock
Rocco, real quick, take it off and show the audience that you're actually balder than I am.
I am not bolder than you. But the discrimination, think about that. You're discriminated against because you support an American president. How crazy is that? So when someone asks someone questions in a poll, a lot of them, they either say they're not for Trump, or they just don't say anything, or they try to give a tepid answer because they don't want to be stigmatized and they don't want to be characterized. Because what do people say when you say I support Trump? Oh, you're a racist.
Yeah.
How am I a racist? Let's see. The only president, or the first president, to have the lowest unemployment rates for Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, and women. And that's in history, in the history of our country. So when we look at this COVID-19 and we see, wow, the country's doing bad, we have unemployment numbers that we've never seen before in our life. The only person that can bring us out of this is the person who already brought us out of it once. That's Trump. You think a guy like Biden with old, stale ideas, who's never done anything worthwhile in 48 years in politics, you think a guy like that could bring us out of this? What are they going to do? They're already talking about the same ideas: tax and spend. You can't tax and spend your way out of this. The president's been trying to get a payroll tax cut. The Democrats won't let him. As a former businessman, current businessman, and an employee, the payroll tax cut would do a lot to stimulate our economy, along with the other ideas that are out there. The Democrats won't give it. What do they want to do? Right now, they're talking about another $3 trillion. They want to throw money at people. Yeah, it's nice. I'll take the money. But is that going to be the answer for the long term in getting us out of this? I don't think so.
No, it's not. You know, I've heard the president make this point. I've only heard it once. He may have said it other times, but it's a point that bears repeating. Can you imagine if we went into this coronavirus shutdown, slowdown, lockdown that we've been in for 2 months now? Can you imagine if we limped into this period with a bad economy? You know, things have been booming for 3 years. That has made it easier, even though it's still difficult, but people were flush more so than ever. They had been employed for a long time. Their 401ks were bigger. Their bank accounts were bigger. Their savings were bigger because of the good economy that Trump brought in the first 3 years of his term. Had we been a weak economy going into this, the devastation, I think, would have been exponentially worse. And I think Trump supporters should make that point more often.
Well, you're 100% right, too. And that is
I'm the host of the show.
That is a good point, because think about it. The way unemployment was already high. I mean, did it come down under Obama? Yes. But that's going to happen naturally as a part of the economy. It didn't happen fast. It didn't happen quickly because his policies were horrible. But if we were in that situation with that high unemployment and the low stock market numbers, which means everyone's 401k was down, there was less money, you're right, we would have been in a really bad situation. Because I think what a lot of people did as this thing hit, they tapped their 401ks, especially since they were able to tap it without penalty. Now they tapped their 401ks, their 401ks were huge. Everyone's 401k was huge. So they had extra money there. That money wouldn't have been there if this was an Obama presidency. Because then what would have happened if the Democrats controlled everything, the White House, the Congress, the House? What would have happened is more tax and spend.
Right. Hey, Rocco, we got less than a minute left. One more question. Do you think it'll be Joe Biden on the ballot a little less than 6 months from now in November versus Trump, or will they replace him?
I think it will be Joe Biden. The only reason why I say that, because there will be a war if he isn't. It's kind of funny how all of a sudden he propped up out of nowhere to lead the pack and knock out Bernie. So, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you got to look. There was some underpinning coming from the Democratic Party to make that happen. They're not going to let him go away, because he's going to be, if he was elected president, they're just all going to be propping him up and doing what they want to do. He's not going to be doing anything. You know, unfortunately, the man has some issues apparently, and that's sad. I mean, he seems like a nice guy. I don't like to see anyone suffer from health issues.
Yeah. Well said, Rocco Limitone, the original Trump supporter, very bullish on Trump 2020. He sees Trump beating Biden in November. We'll have you back to talk about it as the election heats up. Thanks so much, Rocco Limitone.
Thank you, Kieran. Have a good day.